Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to FM22 Youth Factory. We're on episode 35, and it's time to mount the high horse. Get our high hopes in gear. Yes, it is election fever time, and of course, the moment we went from amateur to semi-professional, which was the conclusion of season 2. Yes. So at the conclusion of season 2, at that stage, we had year 1 where we had all the current ability 1 players who were utter garbage, who were the worst in the league, and yet we still somehow managed to get, 1 win and 1 draw that season. And then right before seasons 2 started, we had that very first intake, and that group of players took us to the Tier 10 league title. And as we were on our way towards tier number 9, just days after the conclusion of that second season and that first title, we went semi-pro. That progression instantly put us into a world of hurt financially. And that downward spiral has continued ever since. Those first 2 seasons, we weren't making money, but we weren't losing hardly anything. I mean, we were fairly neutral when it came because our expenses were essentially nil. Ever since, though, downward spiral. Down. My high hopes for a long time have been some form of intervention. And then we saw that somewhere within the 5-year plan was to sell the club. Also, the chairman wanting to step down. Somewhere in that, there's the realm of possibility. No guarantees by any stretch of the imagination, but a realm of possibility that a new chairman coming in, whether from our club-owned, public-owned club structure that we have, that whoever takes over as chairman is somebody coming in, earning the bid, becoming president based on a large investment as one method, or a proper purchase of the team to eliminate the club's debt, take us into the future. Or coming in with, regardless of maintaining debt, but a new stadium or, something that they are going to inject into the club. Here we go. Step number 1 is on its way. We have, at the end of December, our election. It's November the 7th right now. So we are just over 1 month away from the election, and it is confirmed that after 3 terms, Martin Rosval, who has done nothing. He brought in 0 cash when he took over, or anything. He's done nothing in his 3 terms. I think these are 3-year cycles, so 9 years. He's been the manager. He took over as president at the end of our very first season from whoever was the president when we started things up. So he was the president when we were still down in the 10th tier. 3 seasons on, he was reelected on 0 promises. Nothing changed. 3 years on, same, ditto. Finally, after 9 years of him doing nothing but blaming me for the financial hardships of the club, even though we have a 100-seat stadium that's literally filled every single seat in every single match in the entirety of this playthrough, except about 2 matches in season 1 where we had 80-some people sitting in the seats. We had a few empty seats, twice, way back, a decade ago. He's done nothing to help. Here's my high hope. Let's get on that high horse. Let's see what happens with the upcoming election. 5 names listed. Rosval not running for re-election, so this is massive. But that doesn't mean that anything's going to happen. So, let's raise up those hopes. Please don't come crashing down on me. Just for reference, this was our group of players leaving this season. And you can see there's a lot of them. We only have 1 player who left that did not sign with anybody. And as a 16-year-old attacking fullback, we are talking about one of those players that was an intake player that just didn't make it with the club. So the weakest intake player is the only one who is still a free agent. Everybody else has picked up somebody. You can see there's really only a few players really struggled. And then you have a number of players who had average seasons with new clubs, lower clubs obviously, but new clubs. And then as you kind of move up the order, we get into a handful of players who have had very strong seasons with the clubs they signed at, including a number of intake players that still weren't even good enough. The most notable player here, really the only player who found playing time at the senior level, was Vagel. We haven't seen him in quite a while, but Vagel was an available option off the bench for us on rare occasions. And then, of course, Norheim Cham, who was our starting left midfielder, and we sold him. Oh gosh, I don't remember how much money we sold him to start for, but they loaned him back for the entirety of the season. So that was done before the summer transfer window closed. And I don't know, it was 35, 40,000. It was not a big chunk of change, but it was a decent amount of money. And a lot of that money was like straight up front. I mean, we had about 30K up front with an additional 10 to 15 in incentives. Following our second year in the same division, let's see how our annual revenue was comparative to 2 years in the same division. You can see sponsorship was identical. Broadcast revenue went up slightly this year. I think some of that might have come from being a more competitive team. We had a few more televised matches. There is not a full season of televised matches at our level, but you get a pretty good amount. I mean, nearly half of the games, or about half of the matches throughout the season, were televised, and that number changes. It fluctuates. You get more matches televised kind of as the season goes, matches that are picked. And it's clear that we had a rise in the table this season based on the increase in revenue. Corporate and hospitality went from nothing a year ago to $100. That's still tiny though. But competition prize money up quite a bit. That was entirely down to making it another round in the League Cup. And match day slightly higher. We have that growing reputation, even though the number of seats occupied is identical throughout. More and more the club reputation grows, which means people coming to watch the games are more and more willing to spend money on little things, like total merchandise sales going up from $57 to $570. Oh, sorry, that's not domestic. But about $600, and I think that had something to do with that slight increase. But this ultimately, though, very little change. Hopefully we'll see some new sponsorships. That could be one way to get this up, but obviously this election is massive on our hopes of something happening here. And if the new 5-year plan doesn't include selling the club and we get nothing out of the new president, it'll be time to look at what's the next intervention piece. Of course, we've only done the tiniest of interventions at this stage, getting those training facilities from a 1 to a 3, but something's got to give somewhere, and I just hope that this organic thing is gonna work out. Quick review of the first 11. The AI, the assistant manager, picked Calzi more often than not, even though he's not necessarily the best option at the position, but he did have a good season, 7.17 on his average rating, and you can see how much more consistent the team was this season, and you can see how important Fawoli is to the way that we play and anchoring a defense that really isn't good enough. Remember, a season ago, this defense was beaten again and again and again and again. Technically, our team is almost on par with the rest of the league, but physically, we lag behind a little bit, and that meant that the defense was exposed more often than not, where they were beaten for speed or beaten for strength or beaten for height in various fashion. So Gillo, Jakobsen, they still struggled a bit, but not terrible ratings, and it was definitely better than a year ago. Severity, on the other hand, did still have a pretty solid season, but Fawoli in front of them anchoring that group really helps. Really helps. Norheim Cham obviously out, but Andreasen is pretty solid, and I think he's going to be a good option for us. We should be okay. I just hope we don't lose any players this coming season from this group. Like, say, if we lost Bergam, we'd be in a lot of trouble, because even though Lovas had 10 goals and Bergam only had 4, it was Bergam with the 17 assists. It was Bergam with that 7.52. It was Bergam who was the creative force, either setting up Lovas, where you got a lot of those assists, or setting up the runs of the midfield. Lovas with over 100 career goals now for the club. Asensio is the old man on the team, just shy. He's about to have his 24th birthday, or at least at the time of his last goal that he scored, he was on the verge of his 24th birthday. Player of the season this year was Bergam. Goal of the season goes to Arsand. Arsand, of course, is the one who's taken over from Kyle Z, at least in my eyes, but not necessarily in my assistant manager's eyes. Bergam did actually have 17 goals overall, but a lot of them came elsewhere, not in the league. It's weird how they were kind of opposite when it came to the entirety of the season versus elsewhere. Bergam was actually the league's top scorer, so that other sheet was deceiving because, yeah, he had 17 goals. A player of the match is a very good rating and was the league's top goal scorer this season. So there you go. We actually got in the mix on that one, and I don't know why I said he only had 4 goals. That was inaccurate. And now that we've played a decade, I think it's a good time to take a look at our overall best 11. 10 years is a decent amount to actually get a good look, but a lot of the players obviously are still ones that we started with. You can see now Stensby Jakobsen's still the top goalkeeper, but Sabani catching up on him. But we could be going through another goalkeeper change as we have 2 youth squad goalkeepers that are technically better, but so far literally all 4 of these guys are similar current ability, similar potential, none of them developing rapidly, and goalkeeping as a coaching staff has been a weakness for us, but I haven't been able to upgrade coaching staff because we're on that super tight budget and nobody wants to work for it except guys that just aren't quality enough. So we haven't been able to improve our coaching staff for a good 3 years. We've had the same coaching staff that we've had for at least 3 to 4 years now. Anyway, Gillo, Jakobsen, Severetti are the top defenders now. Fawoli has already taken his place in the first 11. Malem's still the guy on the left. Norheim Cham never made it into that mix, though he is in as a substitute. Darlishta somehow is still in the first 11 as a sub. That's surprising. Ittervik, not surprising with our weaknesses in center back position in the group off the bench. Ace Rod still showing up. We've gone through a number of left mids. It's weird. We've gone through Malem. We went through Ace Rod. We've now gone through Norheim Cham. That's the one position that's seen the most rotation for us. Asensio still the starter on the right-hand side. I think he will be for some time. Al is not necessarily better than Asensio. He is technically better, but Asensio continues to outplay him, even though he is not as gifted. And I think for Asensio, that's 99% speed. He's fast, and he somehow makes it work, even though he's not very talented. Snellingen, still our guy on top. I can understand that being there for some time. And Lovas has made it into the substitutes list, so when he overtakes Snellingen as our main guy there, I don't know. But yeah, it still very much looks like the squad we have now, which makes a lot of sense when you have a team that develops internally through youth intake and your youth academy alone and not bringing players in. We don't get much turnover, do we? And our first reports come in for Stolpestad, who is the first of 5 candidates we've seen, and he has zero intention of doing anything. Let's hope he is not in the finals. Nowhere near getting the election. We really need one of the other 4. Somebody, more than one maybe, to step up with big plans. After all, the last time we had a new president to this club, right? We were an amateur club in the 10th tier. Now, we're a semi-pro club. We're in the 3rd tier. We have great youth facilities. We have built up a bit of a reputation where, at the end of season 1, our reputation had gone maybe from a 1 to about a 5. I mean, it wasn't going anywhere. We just existed. So through pure existence, we had a few reputation points. We have well over 1,000 now, probably more like 1,500-ish. In fact, let's find out. It's over 2,000. Now, this is based out of 10,000, so it's still not high, okay? But it's 21%. It's 21% of maximum, where it was literally at 0.0001 or something, whatever, along those lines. It's grown a ton from where it was last time we had a new president. There is zero reason for it to be business as usual. Zero. This is a club that has grown in reputation significantly. There has to be something, right? My optimism cannot be unfounded. It is grounded in reality, right? We'll find out. Youth intake preview, another 5-star crop coming in potentially. And I do like that we're also, it would appear that center backs is going to be the strongest area. And if we get one coming in who looks really good, then maybe they can step in and give us something a little bit more than what we're getting at the position right now. Because it's been, well, I guess you could say our biggest weakness for at least the last few seasons. And so far we are 0 for 2 out of the 5 candidates, as Kolstad is the latest one to step up and have zero promises coming in the run for presidency. Down to 3 options at this stage. I was mentioning how staff has been an issue. Well, it turns out that I just found a new assistant manager with the expiring contract of our existing one, who is definitely a bit of an upgrade. Our old manager was a lot of 10s with good attacking coaching and good working with youngsters, but outside of that, kind of right around a 10 across the board. Here you can see we've got a lot of 12s and 13s, determinations up at 15, his discipline is high. This is a pretty good assistant manager for us for this level. And while he doesn't have the attacking 15, he does have the other things that support that. I could make him an individual coach in one category for 3.5 stars, either defending or attacking, or 3 stars for possession. He's got some quality if we put him on an individual one, but of course we have a small coaching staff. When he's on just one and I have 4 or more categories, I'm dropping down to about 2 stars in 3 out of 4 categories with just my defending tactical at 2.5. There, for example, you could see how that works. For him, yes, we might be able to get him to 3.5 stars, but by putting him in 2 categories, it puts everything now at 2.5 to 3 stars. And for us, that's a step towards more progression overall as a team. I'll give up the stronger single category for a broader improvement in the overall. Now, of course, if we can eventually get more coaches hired, you can get more individualistic in your approach to the coaching and therefore get more specialization and get stronger categories out of them. But we don't have that option right now. We have 6 coaches, including 2 goalkeeping coaches, to try to get something out of the goalkeeping. Getting a little frustrated that we haven't made progress with that. And maybe, just maybe, if we continue to have that be an issue, maybe I'll just eliminate like Stein altogether and put just Wrighton. Get down to the 2 stars only. That was my Alexa, by the way. Get down to the 2 stars only. What difference is that going to make if they're not improving anyway? And I think I have a package on my door. Anyway, I'm sure you probably heard that. Most likely anyway. I think the microphone would have picked that up. Triple notifications. Bring down the quality there and get one more coach elsewhere. And maybe get that specialization happening, because the outfield players are definitely improving. Not all of them, but many of them. My goalkeepers have had zero improvement the entirety of this series. So yeah, maybe that's one thing to consider. I would never expect that all 5 of them come in with money and something to do. But I'm starting to get a little nervous because we're now 0-3. Utsi, no plans. So 0-3, only 2 remain. I could see 2 candidates coming in and kind of duking it out with money. I can't really see 3 candidates or more doing that. So maybe they're just kind of teasing us along. But the election is only like 10 days away now. So haven't heard anything yet. It's making me pretty nervous at this point. We've reached the stage where Santa Claus is coming to town because, well, it's almost midnight, entering Christmas, and the election is just over 2 days away. I haven't seen updates on the last 2, so maybe they're holding their cards a little close as a teaser. I mean, I'm trying to find the optimism. I'm trying to find that glass half full. I was so optimistic at the start of this episode. I'm freaking out inside right now, though. Morning of election day. No updates on those last 2. So I'm putting all of my eggs in the basket of those 2, hoping that one of them does have a plan. One of them is going to bring something to the club. You know, even if it's minor, even if it's an injection of $1 million, that would cover 4 years of debt. It's not good, but it's something. We have to have something. Otherwise, we're screwed. Otherwise, it's time for intervention. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, election day arrives, and Nurgard, number 4, zero intention of doing anything. So we are literally down to 1 candidate now of any chance. 4 have all stated that they have no plans of doing anything grandiose. You gotta be effing kidding me. Oh, gosh. I've been so hopeful that this was the ticket. Now, there was two things, and the vision for one of those we'll see in a moment. I have not looked at it yet. It's unread, but Nurgard has won the election. He said he's not going to do anything, and here already he indicated that his first priority will be to get the club back on sound financial footing. How are you going to do that when you do nothing? What is there to fix? There is literally nothing that you could do in the current state of things other than dissolve the club to fix the financial situation that we are in. The new president has just thrown up a giant middle finger. The team's reputation has grown from nothing to significantly higher. We have climbed 7 tiers, and the new president comes along with no changes in sight. This is the only other hope that we have remaining, and there is no plan in sight. All right, folks, we are now backed into a corner. I have tried to see where this would take us. I have hoped beyond hope that something could happen. What's next on the horizon is a stab in the dark. I have not pressured the board because we have no money, and I'm aware that they're going to say no. My reputation at 40%, my determination is a 20. I can potentially get my way with the board. I have high discipline. The working with youngsters is there. There is hope that maybe I can push the board in a way that could make something happen. Maybe. We have no money, so I don't know how they're going to do that without taking loans. But maybe a determination of 20, the right question in the right time, asked in the right way, will force them to take out a loan to do what I ask. I'm going to exhaust that before we resort to the hand of God intervention. So that's what's next. I'm going to try. I will see if we can't get the board to do something. I think we need to start with the stadium. We need to start with income. Corporate facilities, maybe. Bring in better sponsorship. That could certainly make a difference. And cost less than the stadium. I don't know. This stadium technically has room for expansion. They just haven't invested anything. So we'll try our hand at this. We'll see what we can do. That's now the short-term goal. But by start of the season, if this is all failing and not going anywhere, then we're going to need to intervene somehow. Whether it's cash injection, whether it's stadium upgrade, corporate facility upgrade. I'm not going to keep going with the training facilities at this point. What we need is a solution to the financial constraints that we have. Bringing the balance up to zero, not going to do any good. Club taking out another loan, not going to help anything. It stops the current spiraling debt, but it doesn't put us in a position to be able to spend money. This changeover was the only hope we had, and it amounted to nothing, unfortunately. Really, unfortunately. I'm pretty devastated that that's happened. I was well and truly optimistic that 7-tier climb, the reputation climb, would amount to a new president coming in, a new fan of the club who would step in and do something, even if minor. I mean, even if it was a $500,000, even if it didn't resolve all of it, just something. I was hoping for more than $500,000 or $1 million, total resolution or a new stadium, something. But none of that has happened. Therefore, plan B and plan C on the way. No options on the corporate facilities. I could improve training facilities. We could push for professional status, or we could build a new ground or expand the current ground. Those are the options I'm looking at. The expand ground is one that I would very much like to see, because that's going to cost way less than building a new ground entirely. And as there is room for expansion, that's something I need to double check how much. I think it could expand by quite a bit. Okay, it's not a substantial increase. Our expansion capacity is just 500. This stadium, and the stadium's now 10 years later on, in really poor condition. Okay, we really need a new ground. So asking for an expansion is really not going to help. Adding 400 seats is going to do nothing to the balance, virtually. Very, very little. Certainly not enough. Therefore, we are very much hands tied. Got to do something. There's that corporate facilities at a 1. There's that training facilities. Those are the only ones that are hurting. And when I did this series in the past, I had everything at a 20. And our finances were brilliant, especially because of those corporate facilities. And players improved rapidly because of the high training facilities. I wanted to add a little challenge. And yes, it's been a challenge, to say the least. I think maybe next time, keep the corporate facilities high, keep the training facilities at a 1, and go from there. I know there's no money out there, but we have to try. I have the high determination. Maybe, just maybe, we can push the board. Between the city, between the club, maybe they find a way. We're already in debt. What's another loan at this point? If it's going to get the club going, even if it takes multiple years, you've got to go somewhere, somehow, do something. At this time, we're unwilling to grant your request. However, despite the board's initial rejection of your request, we are willing to listen if you believe you can put forward a compelling case for it. We're going to try that. After letting a week go by, we try again. This time it's expand ground. See what happens here. Of course, we won't build a new stadium because we could expand the ground instead. We won't expand the ground because we have no money. Not even willing to discuss. There's still a couple of requests out there that I can ask besides expanding the ground, so we'll try for those before we go to Plan C. With 2 options left, and again, we've pushed forward about a week. This time we're going to go for improved training facilities so that we can at least keep climbing, right? Again, club's current financial situation, which is why I haven't bothered asking. We are so far in debt. It's hard to get anything, even with 20 determination. If the club is broke, the club's not going to spend money. One more request remains, though. Now, based on everything else, I highly doubt that this is going to succeed. Looking at the long-term 5-year plan, they just want to be established in the division we're in. It's the division above us where professional status starts to become a thing and starts to matter. But if we had it, players would develop a lot faster, training daily instead of just a couple days a week, most weeks. So, professional status, last request. Okay, so we've yet again been rejected, but we do have a chance to discuss it, but I'm not sure. I don't know what to discuss. Here's the reason. We are happy with the club's position in the soccer pyramid at present. Historically, the club has never been higher in the league pyramid, and we would rather stabilize at this level first. We're still seen as a relegation favorite a third year on in this division. So even though we nearly got in to the title mix, or at least we did sort of right at the end of the season and weren't far off. I mean, we were 5 points off winning the league. That's it. That's how close that was. I think 5, give or take anyway. As close as we got, we were a relegation favorite. We're still a relegation favorite. At the end of the season in the team meeting, I suggested mid-table, and the players all scoffed at me. They were quite offended that I suggested we finish mid-table, even though we finished essentially mid-table in Season 1, and in Season 2, we were near the top of the league. I'm looking to build on that. They and the board still think that right now everything's about survival. That's part of the reason why we're not getting that professional status at this point in time. They're still thinking about survival where we're at and not seeing relegation. So there's numerous reasons why there's no optimism within this. There's no point discussing this with the board. What I'd like to do, I'm going to skip forward into March. We'll get our intake. We'll just get a quick look at it, see if there's any outstanding players. Not breaking it down individually. We'll do that into the next episode. No matches this time. Sorry about that. Off season, it happens. There was a lot going on with this board, with this election. This very disappointing election. And disappointing Plan B. Plan C, though? Leave your comments below. Leave your suggestions. What would you like to see be a Plan C option? What should we do? Should we inject $3 million? Meaning wipe out the $1.5 million in debt to give us a balance of about $1.5 million. We still would have that one large loan. It would give us a little bit of money. And then, therefore, I could actually approach the board and get our way, right? We've seen multiple things turned down because of the finances. 2 of those things, anyway. Training facilities, expanding the ground. They clearly don't want to build a new one until it's been expanded. So maybe we can make those 2 things happen if we had a little bit of money. And then second option, continue to upgrade training facilities or upgrade corporate facilities manually. We bump that up a few levels and we can get better sponsorship, and maybe that could get us in a better financial situation, or at least losing less. It's a step in the right direction. Forcibly expand the stadium. We can't keep climbing without addressing the finances, though. So I think at this point, training facilities, probably off the board. Or is that what you want? Is that where we go? Do we climb to the second tier and then force professional status, and then, then dominoes start to fall in place? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Let's see that youth intake, and then we'll get out of here. And here she is. It's intake time. We'll see. It looks like 3 players with high potential. How good, though? I don't know. Current ability, nothing standing out. No players ready to come up and be a starter right away. We do have a Sri Lankan player this year, so yeah, that's an interesting one. Icelandic as well. Probably not going to keep any of these bottom 5 or so. Not looking great. They say it's a golden generation. It looks like a golden generation, maybe in terms of potential, with 3 very high potential players, including Nygaard. All right, sure, the president's son. No wonder he was elected. Maybe not. Maybe they're unrelated. That does it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe. See you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.